Hi friends, welcome back. Time for another book review. Another Nicole Trope, T-R-O-P-E, another Nicole book. His Other Wife. She has your husband, she has your child, she has your life. So this one is another suspense one, which I think is basically her genre, which is fine because I love her books, I love her writing style. I love the way she develops the characters, and I've read several of her books now, and none of them are alike, none of the characters are alike. She's very well at being diverse. So it's told through the eyes of his ex-wife Sarah, the husband Gideon, his new wife Charlotte, and I believe that's all. Sarah, Charlotte, and Gideon, so the triangle essentially. So, she did a great job at the end. There was a couple of twists I didn't expect. I had my hunches on some things, like what was going on, and I was wrong. And then there was another one that also was snuck in there, like, oh, I didn't see that coming either. So, she did a very good job at the end of sneaking a couple in there. So, the premise is Sarah is the ex-wife. She and Gideon were happily married, very much in love, enjoyed each other very much. They had a daughter, Emily. And then, not long, I don't know how old Emily was, maybe 2 or 3, she had a miscarriage and lost their son. Very traumatic, the miscarriage, the grief. And then during that time, when she was grieving and just really didn't know how to cope with the loss of her son, her mother had cancer and was kind of in denial and didn't go look into it, didn't go check out what was going on, and then her mother died of cancer. And then 4 months after that, her father basically died of a broken heart. So in a very small, I think it was like a 6-month time frame maybe, she lost her son and her parents, which any one of those would be devastating, but all 3 of them, I can't even imagine. So she had a lot of depression, a lot of just grief, heaviness. And so she started having trouble sleeping, trouble eating, trouble coping, and eventually demanded a divorce from her husband. He still loved her and she still loved him, but for whatever reason, she didn't feel like, I don't know if she didn't feel like she didn't deserve him, wasn't good enough, didn't want him to see her grief, so kind of in a sense almost like pushed him away. So they get divorced, and she's coping as best as she can, and then she starts having issues where she's living on her own. She's living in an apartment. They sold their mutual house. She's living there, and they have joint custody of Emily. And during that time frame, Gideon meets Charlotte, who will become his next wife. And she seems very organized, very meticulous, very detail-oriented, very put together, very calm, very stable. His ex-wife, Sarah, is very unstable, very emotionally fragile, very emotionally distraught. A lot of emotional and mental issues going on. And she's trying to work through them. She's trying to find a therapist, which to me would be very hard, finding someone that you felt like they heard you felt like they could help you, they felt like they understood you, they felt like they could sympathize with you. So I understand her struggle to find a therapist where she feels safe and comfortable to expand what's going on. During that time, she starts hearing what she calls the whispering man. And he whispers to her how she is not good enough, how the loss of her son and parents is all her fault, and how he's going to come for her daughter and take her too. And she tries to cope with it and not share it with anybody. And she still talks, of course, to Gideon quite a bit. They're still very amicable because they share the custody of Emily, and because deep down they still love each other. But she finally breaks down and explains to him what's going on, and she gets some help, and things seem to improve. And then he gets engaged to Charlotte after they've been living together a little bit, and then the Whispering Man returns again, and she just is so beside herself. She doesn't sleep, and it's not for like hours, it's days. She doesn't sleep for days. She's losing weight. She's, and now it's possibly jeopardizing the safety of their daughter. So he finally just basically calls social services and has her admitted to like a facility to try and help her work through what is going on and all this mental, like, why is she, imagining hearing this Whispering Man saying all these things to her. And so you go down this road of trying to figure out what's going on. Is it real? Is it not real? Who's not real? Who is telling the truth and who's not telling the truth? Because there is a point where Charlotte is very intertwined with her mother, Carol. I guess Carol's voice is in there as well at some point. And she's very like codependent on her mother and very, very regimented. Her mother was very controlling over her and her brother, and her father had cheated on their mom and then was going to get divorced, but then he died of a heart attack. So she had to go through her own set of grief, so she kind of understands the struggle. But at the same time, Gideon always wants to be there for Sarah, always wants to help. Sarah's always there no matter what time Sarah calls to say, hey, can you come help me? I'm struggling. And Charlotte's jealous. She sees it as, a competition of, is he going to go with his ex-wife or me? Who's more important to him? And then when she goes into the facility to try and like get her life back on, try and figure out what's going on and what's causing the Whispering Man and the fear and the anxiety and the emotional depression of all of that grief that she's kind of just shoved down. Well, then of course Emily comes to live with Charlotte and Gideon full time, and Charlotte basically steps into the role of, I'm the mom now. She doesn't call herself the mom, but she clearly in her head wants to be Emily's mom and wants to take Sarah's place and wants to basically have Sarah out of the picture. And Gideon is all too happy to work with Charlotte and Emily because he wants to make Emily feel safe and secure and happy because that's his daughter. So you see that coming together of a unit, and Sarah's kind of down the outside. And she finally is able to work through enough to be released after 3 months into an apartment of her own and build up the security and safety and emotional, mental capacity to take back some time with her daughter. And that's when you start to see more twists and turns in the whole dynamics of all of the relationships between Carol and her mom, or Charlotte and her mom Carol, between Charlotte and Gideon, Gideon and Sarah, and even some of the relationship with Emily. So, and the outcome is, like I said, the outcome was not what I expected. There was parts of it that I was like, oh, I think this is going to go this way. But it didn't quite go that way. So, and there's just some things in there I did not expect, or I kind of had an inkling, but they just didn't come out quite the way I expected them to. I don't want to give too much away because it is really a fun read. A thrilling read. I can't put the book down read. I mean, I think I read it in like 3 days, 2 or 3 days, because I couldn't put it down. I wanted to know what happened. Do they, come back together as a couple? Do they figure out what's going on? Who's doing what? What is the intent here? So I was very intrigued. So I highly recommend it. And as always, keep reading, and I hope you'll join me for another review soon again. Thanks for coming to visit.